We've all seen the headlines. We think we understand these stories. The truth is, not everything is what it seems. Behind every story, there's more than what we're told. This is where we ask the questions others avoid, where we say the quiet parts out loud. Welcome to Unspoken Truths Unfiltered.
I am Autumn Cross.
And I'm Beth Justice.
And this is our very first episode of Unspoken Truths.
We're so excited to be here. Honestly, it has been years in the making.
Yeah.
I mean, we're going to tell you that making here shortly, but we're just really excited because Unspoken Truths for us is about the conversations that people think, but they don't say. And especially in true crime, why this matters is you're covering very intense, heavy topics that are complicated. But in the news, we tend to take those things and boil them down into something that is more digestible, something that is more easy to understand. And those tough parts are often left out of that story.
Truth is sometimes left out.
And the truth matters. And this podcast, we are going to tackle that very truth, showing all sides of the story. And we're so excited to be here with you.
Before we get into why we started this podcast, which is what we're going to be discussing today, we want to tell you how we got here and a little bit about who we are.
I grew up as a military kid from moving around every 3 years. And I knew from a very young age that I liked to tell stories. So I can even remember telling my very first stories, probably about the age of 3 or 4. And I would like to pick all these little details out, put them together and loop and hook people in so that they could, finally get to the culmination of the story and the biggest moment. And I used to have so much fun building those stories of my own that it's no wonder I got into journalism so that I could tell other people's stories. So I've done it all in the terms of the television world and legacy media, from the Weather Channel and hurricanes, tornadoes, Superstorm Sandy, and then all the other natural disasters. And from that, I went into USA Today telling political disasters, which is why I got out of that very quickly because I don't like politics, as it turns out. After politics, I then went into true crime. I will say in the courtroom, there is a lot of politics at play, and we're going to get into that in our podcast eventually. But I worked at Court TV. So Court TV was a brand, the one you remember back in the day with the O.J. Simpson trial and Menendez brothers. And they went away for a little while. They were on a little hiatus, and they came back around 2018. And I was a part of the group that was relaunching Court TV. So I got to build their digital brand from the bottom up, which meant all kinds of fun stuff like creating a website, creating marketing plans, creating the system of the team that would clip content and take it from broadcast to the digital platforms that we serve. So that part was amazing, right? I love the business side of things. I loved building business, cultivating talent, helping people grow in their careers. Like, that's the part I loved. But there was this other side of it that I kind of felt I struggled a little bit with. And that was the part where you're truncating stories, going from what I thought was these powerful stories of people's worst moment of their lives in most cases, and taking that complicated story and putting it into a headline or a 60-second video or a package that was only a minute and a half. It was challenging because here in these stories, you would see they're real people going through real life-altering situations, and you're trying to sell that to the audience in a sense. So there was always this part of me that was like, I love true crime. I absolutely love the stories. But what I was doing with those stories was becoming more and more difficult to continue to do the way I thought I wanted to do it.
Yeah. That's exactly the way I felt too.
The truth is, there's always more beneath the surface. This is Unspoken Truths Unfiltered.
I grew up in South Georgia, had a big family, and lots of fun and chaos and sports and family time and faith. And my journey before Court TV, which I also worked at with Beth, my journey led me through many different industries. Medical field, I worked in education for a little while, business, lots of business, and that's how I ended up at Court TV. And I started to feel the same way. I lost my mother a couple of years ago, and I really started striving for more light in my life and things that made me happy and did good. I wanted more good in my life and to help people and make an impact. And I felt that pull that so upsetting to me some days. I can remember even having tears at the end of a work day about not being able to tell the full story and having to sell a story, sensationalizing other people's pain. And to me, that was very hard in my struggle as who I was as a human being. It was hard for me. And as time went on, the struggle got harder and harder, and it just didn't align emotionally with what I wanted to do with my life. And again, I felt the same exact way Beth did. It was fun. I worked in the digital department at Court TV. I love true crime. Beth and I bonded over that. We got very close working together, lots of projects, lots of success. And I think it got to the point for both of us that it just felt so off, but we couldn't ignore it anymore. But we still loved our job so much. So we just continued down that path. And we knew in the back of our minds that we were meant to do something bigger and better.
It's neither your fault nor my fault or any one person's fault. I think the problem is in the industry itself, because you have to think about what it is we were actually tasked with doing, it, especially at Court TV. And I'm not blaming Court TV for the record. I'm blaming just the way that news works, the way that legacy media works, the way you make money in television and in, print media. You have to be able to sell something. You have to be able to get traffic to make money. So there's already this issue of you have to, you want as many people looking at your content as possible. Meanwhile, you're also entertaining. I think that's the line, though, that gets blurred because there's news and then there's entertainment. And what we were doing was really straddling that line of more sometimes entertainment than news. So at Court TV, we would literally take hours and hours. I mean, sometimes an 8-hour day of courtroom activity and boil it down into a segment that you could tell the entire story quickly and read it within, a minute and a half article or, a segment on air for 30 to 90 seconds, something like that. You would not be able to go very deep into these. So reducing it down to sentences, it's taking that truth down to a short version. So this tiny sentence, and then that sentence ends up becoming what people take away from what you're giving them. So I think that no matter where our hearts lie, I think the system is built ultimately to hurt some of like getting the full story. Unless you're sitting there watching the live stream gavel to gavel, because then you're getting the full courtroom story. Then you're not maybe getting the full story of the person in the courtroom.
Yeah. And at Court TV, we had that. We had the entire background. And you don't see that in the live streams. We knew from reports and court documents who these people were. I think for me, it was more upsetting sometimes. People were being judged, and the people that were doing the judging didn't have the whole story. So, I mean, that's life, that's people, that's the way it's going to be. Everyone is entitled to their own opinion. But I feel like if you're not getting the whole truth, is it a valid opinion?
Yeah. And the system wasn't built for truth, it was built for consumption. So That's ultimately the issue. And I think that's what kind of led to our personal conflict. Us being able to see this and realizing, which was a hard truth for me to accept, that I ultimately became part of the problem because I loved my job and I had good intentions at heart. But what comes out to people that they can only see what we're giving them. And I never felt like I was giving enough. Not only that, but I didn't feel like I had the strength to change it.
Because the truth matters. And so does how we treat each other. Stay kind. Stay curious. Stay safe. Until next time.